Welcome back. All right. Bad news for you is good news for me. We are so happy to welcome this morning Mike Deeson, who was a local investigative journalist right here in the Bay Area for just about 35 years. Is that correct, Mike? 35. Right. Not to date you and age you, but I want to make sure people know just how much experience you have.
Yeah, and this was not my first job. I had my first job in TV in 1968, shooting in black and white silent film on a wind-up Bell and Howell 3-turret lens camera. And you could always tell when something good was going to happen because the camera would wind down right before the good thing. You have to wind it up again. So I've been doing this a while.
You have, and I know you have spent a lot of time, and we have so much to dive into, so hopefully we get enough time to do it. But let's talk about the title of the book first, because I think sometimes news does, and I know this kind of plays to your humor a little bit as well, but you've covered some hard cases over the years, and I know that it had to have been taxing, I think, on your mind, you mentally, on a day in and day out thing. So why this title? Because you're pretty blunt about it.
Well, as an investigative reporter, obviously the pitch to the audience is we're going to show you bad guys doing something and expose them. And that's what I truly enjoyed doing. And when I was working on a story, I lived it. And I'd like to say that I got most of my stories because I'm brilliant and good looking, which may be, but that's a lie. Any good investigative reporter will tell you they got most of their stories from tips. And I would get a tip about some official doing something bad or enriching himself or herself. And then I would really get excited because then I'd start the paperwork. It was a long process to find all the facts on it. And it turned out that if it was a good story, it was bad for them.
Yeah.
Me.
And I'm curious, there's no way that you could have called and said, "Hi, this is Mike Deeson, and I need you to give me some information." Like, how would you, that had to have been tough.
Well, with everybody, what I would do is I would do all my research first. And then I would call, and the lawyers hated when we said this, but here's the truth. I would call the target of the investigation. They didn't like that, but it was true, the target of the investigation. And I would say, I'm doing this story. It's not a good story. I want to give you an opportunity to answer these charges. And if they said no, I would say they had no comment. I said, you are perfectly fine and within your right to say no comment. But you're going to have to say that on camera. And you can either do it in your office, which is your domain, or you can do it on the street, which is my domain. And I don't say it's an ambush interview because I'm telling you I'm coming after you. I'll even tell you where I'm going to meet you. I'm going to get your schedule if you're a public official, and I'm going to show up at every event that you're there with the camera and ask you on camera about that. So I would go straight to them and be very honest. And like an attorney, I never asked a question that I didn't know the answer to.
So speaking of attorneys, let's talk about what's in your book, because you were also sued several times, and I believe won every single case.
We did because when I did a story, it would go through a huge process from our producer, our executive producer, our news director, assistant news director, and then I would be put on the witness stand by our company attorney who was in Washington, and he would say, how can you say this line? What do you have? What paperwork do you have to back up that line? What paperwork do you have to back up that line? And we always won on summary judgment because we had the paperwork. They wouldn't let me go on the air, nor would I want to if I didn't have the facts to back it up.
So this book, for those of us who grew up here, right here in Florida, what are some of the big cases that you think people might be interested to read about and know a little bit of the backstory that you go over in this book?
Well, one of the biggest was the Brian Sterner wheelchair dumping case, where he was dumped out of a wheelchair at the Hillsborough County Jail because they didn't believe he was a quadriplegic. And when we got the tip again, I went out to his house and he's telling me the story, and I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty interesting. And then he said, it's all on tape. Nobody realized back in those days that the Hillsborough Sheriff's Office taped everything that was on in the jail. And I said, if you're saying that's true, this is a national story, which it became. So I called the Sheriff's Office, asked them for the video of it. They thought nothing of it. They said, yeah, we'll try to get it to you by 3:30 this afternoon, because that's when the guy who does the video goes goes off work. And then I called the station and said, I have a major story. I need at least 4 minutes to tell this story, not knowing if I really had the story or not, because we had to have the video. We got the video at 3:30, stuck it in my computer, and then I went, whoa, everything he told me was absolutely true. And it made all sorts of changes in the Hillsborough jail system because of that. And then people started requesting tapes of everybody that was arrested. Yeah. Sheriff's office got mad at me, blaming me for that. So always shoot the messenger.
So it's interesting, and I know you have a podcast now, and you by no means are, just because you're retired from the investigative journalism of what you did for 35 years, that you're just sitting at home. I know you're very busy. Do you miss these days in this time of 2020 where it seems like we are living, and at least in my lifetime, I mean, I can't even compare this year to anything. Do you miss doing what you did before in a climate such as this?
Yeah, as I told you, Carly, I'm doing investigative documentaries. I've been working for 2 years on a project called Broken, about elephants being abused in circuses. I've traveled the country. So I'm doing a lot of the same stuff. What I wish, because I was also a political reporter in another life when I was in Virginia, I would love to be in D.C. these days, trying to keep up with the changing events as they're going on so quickly. Because a lot of the political stories became investigative pieces, because I know this will shock you, politicians lie. and that's what really got me into investigative journalism. I was doing political stuff. These guys in lies all the time. And I went, man, there's nothing better than that to catching a senator going, but when you show them the paperwork and all that.
Yeah.
That's what I'd really like to be doing if I could do anything else. But I love what I'm doing right now. I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and break that down. Your documentary, when are we hoping that's going to be released?
Well, the people who hired me for that want to submit it to the Sundance Film Festival, and there's no guarantee it'll get in. So Sundance requires that they have the world premiere, and we won't know till late fall whether we get in or not. If they accept, it'll premiere next January or February.
Okay, and then obviously the podcast people can listen to, and then where can people get the book, as we are out of time? We could have talked the whole hour.
Amazon, go for Mike Deeson or Bad News is Good for You, and it's on Amazon. I hope you'll enjoy it. I loved writing it. People in Tampa Bay have been wonderful to me, and I hope this is a gift to them back.
Oh, well, Mike, thank you so much. Such a pleasure. We'll have to bring you in occasionally just to get your thoughts on things.
Love to do it, Carly. It's a pleasure being with you. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you, Mike. We, of course, will put more info on our website, too.
Thanks.